Welcome, friends. This United Lodge of Theosophists serves the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. All who want to keep this ageless doctrine alive are welcome to participate with us here at 4865A Cordell Avenue, Suite 230, Bethesda, Maryland. We meet every Sunday at 11 o'clock to hear a topic by a student on a particular subject. And the first and third Sundays of the week, of the month, and this is the first Sunday, there's a roundtable discussion, reading and discussion on a particular topic. We are doing the series now on living the life, so there'll be a topic from that series presented at 12:30 p.m. after this meeting. It's sustained by ULT students who commit themselves to the degree they internally find appropriate in terms of contributing resources and efforts. There are no admission charges. The only tie that binds us is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching. The ULT continues to be guided by its declaration printed on the back of our program. This is the LA program, but we have one here at the lodge just like that. And we also have it on our website, www.ult.org. The ULT continues to be guided by its declaration printed on the back of the program, as I just said. The declaration focuses on the message of the science of the soul and nature's unerring laws, such as its overarching law of universal brotherhood. Such truths were commonly known in ancient times. Our aim is to make them visible today, or much more visible. In the West, they're not very visible at all. Our reading today is from The Voice of the Silence, starting on page 72. Know if Amitabha's the boundless sage, thou wouldst become co-worker, then must thou shed the light acquired, like the Bodhisattva twain, upon the span of all three worlds. Know that the stream of superhuman knowledge and the Deva wisdom thou hast won must from thyself the channel of Alaya be poured forth into another bed. Know, O Najal, thou of the secret path, its pure fresh waters must be used to sweeter make the ocean's bitter waves, that mighty sea of sorrow formed by the tears of men. Alas, when once thou hast become like the fixed star in highest heaven, that bright celestial orb must shine from out the spatial depth for all, save for itself. Give light to all, but take from none. Alas, when once thou hast become like the pure snow in mountain vales, cold and unfeeling to the touch, warm and protective to the seed that sleepeth deep beneath the bosom, 'tis now that snow which must receive the biting frost, the northern blast, thus shielding from their sharp and cruel tooth the earth that holds the promised harvest, the harvest that will feed the hungry. Self-doomed to live through future kalpas, unthanked and unperceived by man, wedged as a stone with countless other stones which form the guardian wall. Such is thy future if the seventh gate thou passest, built by the hands of many masters of compassion, raised by their tortures, by their bloods cemented. It shields mankind, since man is man, protecting it from further and far greater misery and sorrow. What man withal man sees it not, will not perceive it, nor will he heed the word of wisdom, for he knows it not. Today, next Sunday's talk, we'll continue our roundtable discussions of Patanjali's yoga aphorisms. And now we have today's talk, which is on the sun.
Good morning and welcome everyone. As you heard, today's talk is on the sun. But to start with, I think we need to acclimate ourselves with our galaxy, which is the Milky Way, and our solar system is on the Orion arm. This is the Milky Way. Don't think that I will get it in public to the best, but we'll look at any other. And this is the structure of the sun. And I will talk a little bit about the physical sun, because without that, we will not be able to really understand the significance. And this is the solar system here, and you can look at it at your pleasure. There is a tremendous difference between the information provided by science and the science of the philosophy of Theosophy, which comes from the wisdom religion, which is at the root of it, which are the perfected beings called masters. So there's a physical sun, and this is visible. And there is a central spiritual sun, which is invisible. And we will try and talk about these two coupled together. There is a tremendous amount of controversy where the physical sun is concerned. And science to this day cannot really answer any of the questions put forward, because learnedly they say things, but they really don't know what they are talking about, because in its inner essence they do not know what the sun is. Now, here's our solar system, and our sun is the star. However, at the beginning, or in the archaic ages, that information was not given out, or it was not known. It was known to the inner circles, but not to the outer general public. And I'm going to quote from Aristotle what he says about our sun. He says, almost all those who affirm that they have studied heaven in its uniformity claim that the earth is in the center, but the philosophers of the Italian school, and those are the Pythagoreans, teach entirely the contrary. And we are given the reason why Pythagoreans are giving a different philosophy, because in the secret doctrine it states Pythagoreans were initiates. In ours, they were given the inner knowledge, and they followed the deductive method. Now, what's the Aristotelean method? Inductive. It goes from particulars to the generals. But the knowers of the wisdom religion start from the generals, and they come to the particulars, and they can trace their way back from particulars to the generals again. So, and he says further, father of inductive system says, by complaining, the center of our system was this is what the Pythagoreans, in other words, are claiming, that the center of our system was occupied by the sun, and the earth, by a rotatory motion around the same center, produces night and day. This is what Pythagoreans are saying, but Aristotle does not believe in the heliocentric system, or nor the rotundity of our system, nor that the sun is our central star. He puts earth in the center of it. And this information is brought forward. Why, this student asked many a time, as to this information was not made public. And in the beginning of the secret doctrine, there's an explanation for it. HPV says, at that time, people believed in the occult. They were materialistic, and they used particulars to go to the generals, but nevertheless, they were aware of the occult, and they believed in it. Today, Huxleys, Tyndalls, and Lowes laugh at this word occultism because they really don't believe in it. They think that our world is just physical. If you can't see it, you cannot do experimentation. It does not exist. And even at the beginning of this 19th century transition of our minds, that was the objective of those who brought out this philosophy and what they had in mind, as well as the students of Theosophy at that time, who were under the guidance of the teacher who was on the scene, being HPV, and her helper, Mr. Judge, claimed that Mars and Mercury form part of the septenary chain of planets. And we talked about that a lot, and this is the part of the solar system, has nothing to do with the septenary 7 planets that Earth is made up of. And another one said, our teacher did not understand reincarnation when she wrote Isis, and another one re-edited the secret doctrine after it was published, putting herself in a position that she knew better than the teacher who was on the scene. And we can ask, why is this the case? Because the true sun, which is not visible, is a reflection, and that there is a spiritual energy and help to be given to us from that spiritual center if we bring ourselves and prepare ourselves for its influence. Just as we carry on with our daily lives under the influence of the sun, because the influence of the sun, what is the influence of the sun? It gives life through that light to everything under that canopy. That's its impulse, is life, the impulse to life. So, but it is important to understand that the central spiritual sun that we very rarely talk about has its ray in each human heart, and that by becoming closer in my understanding to it, I can open those channels. Why is that important? It's important because it says the most excellent light of the true sun can give help in the struggle to assist humanity to reach higher realms. So, this information that we now have is a stepping stone. Why is that? Because the sun, if you go to the Secret Doctrine on page 289, Secret Doctrine 1 to 89, we are told that the substance of the sun for the solar system is the highest on Earth. The highest. The substance of the sun is the highest. What substance are we talking about? Are we talking about the substance here? No. The substance in the sun is very refined. It is very refined. So, by giving us this information, and it came from the Lodge of the Knowers, obviously, they're giving it to us because they expect us to inquire into the physical sun, and from there using that to reach to the spiritual center, which is invisible behind it. And that is where help for humanity comes. Secret Doctrine, you can take these pages and read them for yourself. For 79. The sun is matter and the sun is a spirit. Our ancestors, the heathen, along with their modern successors, Parsis. Who are they? Zoroastrians. There is about 100,000 of them there, Parsis. Were and are wise in their generation to see in it the symbol of divinity, to see in the sun the symbol of divinity, at the same time sense within, concealed by the physical symbol, the bright God of the spiritual and terrestrial light. It is a spirit of light, the firstborn of the eternal pure element, whose energy or emanation is stored in the sun, the great life giver of the physical world, and the hidden concealed spiritual sun is the light and life giver of spiritual and psychic realities. So this is its objective. The physical sun is to be used to reach to higher realms of existence, which is psychic and spiritual. And it is said here that the solar substance is material. You can go to these pages and read it, please. And on that same section it says, the sun is neither incandescent nor gaseous, which is what the scientific world claims. The sun gives nothing of itself because it's simply electromagnetic force. Not of Ariadne, but it is also force. So, this is from the Blavatsky Lodge. In relation to the sun, the highest form of the fire that we know of here, HPV explains, the sun as on our plane is not even solar fire, because it is a reflection, a bundle of electromagnetic forces, one of countless milliards of knots of Foucault. This thread runs through the 7 planes, tying itself into knots. Every plane being septenary, then, there are 49 mystical and physical forces, and the larger knots forms the sun's systems, and the smaller one, planets, and so forth. And she says the sun absorbs or psychicizes and vampires its subjects within its system. Why? Because it's a great magnet. And then we're told gravity does not really exist in the Newtonian sense, because there is only attraction and repulsion. We cannot just, she tells us, take into consideration half of the law, which is attraction. The other half is repulsion. And without that being in place, she says, none of these planets would be in their orbits. It's their magnetism that controls the sun's magnetism, and their own magnetism in relation to the sun is what keeps them in their orbits. And of course, physical science does not go along with that. The sun has a distinct function, and we already said what it is. It is to give impulse to life that breathes and lives under its light. So, what are all those things then that scientists observe? sunspots. Where are those? We said the sun is the heart of the system. It's invisible. The heart is invisible. It will never be seen. And she says it's hidden even from the Diane Johannic gaze. So that central spiritual sun that is a knot of Fohat is the spiritual. It controls the psychic and the spiritual worlds. Which worlds are those that the voice of the silence refers to? We need to synthesize the information so that it becomes understandable, because it's very simple. The power by which we live and by which we come into being is very simple. Just because our societal norm has become very complicated through cunningness and all other aspects of our lives, that doesn't mean that that simplicity cannot be found. It is there. We live by that simple force within each human heart. Again, in the secret doctrine we're told the pumping of that heart, if we can use such a simile, is an 11-year cycle. So the sunspot cycle is 11 years. And what we see is the arteries, and the center part of it is invisible, but the nourishment, just like the blood is pushed in our veins and arteries, this sun also pushes it into the space and sustains all. What are we talking about here? What does sun do? It puts all the electrons, the ions, all that stuff that's within itself is in a very refined condition. And so this is why this little diagram was handed out to you all. This diagram here. And here it has three different parts that I wanted to bring to your attention. The photosphere, chromosphere, and the corona. And as you can see, the corona is this very pastel pinkish orange aura around the sun. It really is not visible until it is a total eclipse. Then the corona becomes visible. But it's there. And then there's the chromosphere and the photosphere. And photosphere shows the sunspots. The condition of the sun is such that hydrogen is converted into helium. And this is the energy that it provides to all of the system. Every sun provides that energy to its own system, but not in this form. We only know this one. When we talk about the sun, we're only talking to this, in this particular way, about the solar system. And she says the conditions that are on Earth does not apply to all of the other planets in the system. And as you know, there are 4 inner planets, and then there are those, the gas giants, outer planets. The inner ones are rocky and very small: Mercury, Venus, Mars. Of course, Earth is part of that. And the outer ones, Saturn, Jupiter, and so forth. Those are the gas giants. And there's an asteroid belt in there. If you look at the solar system, it separates the inner from the outer planets. So that process then does take place in the sun. How that condition exists, we really don't know. I mean, this is refined substance we are talking about, and the sun is the highest on this earth. By the time it comes here, how many changes has it gone through? 7. 7 emanations. And each 7 is divided into another 7. So there are 49 levels of fire. And what corresponds to these? Our consciousness does. Every one of those levels of existence has a level of consciousness in the human mind that corresponds with it. So we are a copy of the universe that we live in. We are exactly like the universe we live in. Everything that is out there corresponds to a principle, a plane of substance in us. So every night then, the human soul does this journey. It goes up, every morning it comes down. The soul knows how to do it. It's the personality, the Namarupa, who I consider myself to be on earth, my form, does not participate in that process because at best it is partially awake. In most of us, it is totally asleep. This happens every night. We go from the lowest to the highest spiritual, and that is why we need to synthesize this information into a whole, and that is called the Turiya state, in the voice of the silence. This is the highest spiritual level that we reach every night. We correspond to all those levels of consciousness. Each one then finds expression in us. So, sunspots then is the sun cycle where the shoals of electrons and ions are released into our universe. The sun provides energy for all and every planet, including Earth. And it travels at the speed of light because it's very light, the ions and so forth. And so they reach us. Light from the sun reaches Earth in how many minutes? 8 minutes. 8 minutes. So, there is a correspondence of the physical terminology to spiritual terminology, but it isn't given in that way. They want us to discover it. For instance, Secret Doctrine, page 33, this expression. The sun, like the Ashwatha tree, grows with its roots above and its branches below. The roots are above, branches are below. These roots lead to the rootless root. So, roots above lead to rootless. The one ever existing, obviously, right? From whence flows the never-ending stream of conditioned existence. The real sun is one of the numberless nuclear laws in the bosom of eternity. This is high metaphysics. The terminology is appropriate to the physical, but nevertheless the roots are above, and using those roots we're stretching our tentacles towards the rootless root. What is that? We come from that central spiritual sun. Every human soul, whether we call it the Christ principle, whether we call it God, whether we call it Allah, whatever it is that we use that terminology, it is not indicative of a physical principle. It is indicative of a spiritual principle. This is where most of the religions of the world err, because they do not specify the spirituality behind that word. So, this is the terminology. there correspondence with this word in the human economy? Yes, there is. In the discussion, atoms, gods, that article, we are told that they correspond. They correspond. And the smallest of the small and the largest of the large is the same. So when we look at a human cell, it's just like that circle that we designate as the logos. And here in its center, what is that? The nucleus. This is the nucleus. But in its center, without a boundary, there's no boundary, there's no cell wall around this nucleolole. This is exactly that. In the human economy, that word is in there. In the center of the nucleus, there is another center. What is its function? Ribosome. It manufactures ribosomes. Ribosomes. What are ribosomes used for? Protein manufacture. The synthesis of proteins. Can we live without them? The human economy cannot live without synthesizing proteins. They're necessary aspects of life. And look what she says about that. The real sun is one of the numberless nucleoles in the bosom of eternity. These are eternal and everlasting. The nuclei, that, periodical and finite. The nucleoles, part of the absolute. They are embrasures of that black, impenetrable fortress which is forever concealed from human or even bionic sight. The nuclei are the light of eternity escaping therefrom. So, these are called embrasures or fissures or openings through which the light of eternity finds its way out of darkness into our world. And it finds its expression in the human economy. Each cell, there is an article and implication that these cells or the atoms which are indestructible, I'm not talking about physical atoms. Atoms are not physical. They're psycho-spiritual. That they are eternal. And in their homogeneous state, they exist from eternity to eternity. We are told on every discussion page, atoms are not made. They are. They are part of the space. They occupy space. So, in the human economy then, the atom, with this structure that copies the same structure of logos, which is the light coming into our universe, is going to become an entity in the future. Humanity's responsibility is not just to move towards self-sufficiency, self-expression, selflessness in providing for all of the other echelons lower than itself guidance, towards becoming emancipated from substance, but to enable all of the other lives that we use and uplift it to a higher expression of itself. This is our responsibility. So these are very intelligent because all life is intelligent. Our system works because these intelligent lives have been trained to do work for us each organ system does a particular work and does it very well. And this is where it is. So the nuclei are the light of eternity escaping from there on. And with that, we will open it for discussion. There's a whole lot more that can be said, but it cannot be said all in this one little period. This is all that is going to be said. Everybody has
the nucleus.
Yes.
Is the
Microphone?
is that the is that what she identifies as the central spiritual sun?
That is a knot. The knot of Fohat is just that. The sun is a knot. That knot is electromagnetic. Now, that center, okay, let's look at this in here. So I can, oops, sorry. Let's look at this here for a second. This is the solar system, right? And we have the sun with magnet that regulates everything else around it according to their magnetic sphere. Okay? But itself is attracted to another center. Now, if you look at astronomical information, you will find that the scientists observe this also, that the sun is attracted to another center. And that center binds this center. How many centers is that? 2. How many times did that Fohatic knot change its constitution until it came down to our world? 7. So that center that the sun is attracted to is obedient to another center. Whether it is a sun or a larger center, or it calls it a larger center of spiritual force here in the secret doctrine. No one is giving us that information, because I think you have to become an initiate to be given those kinds of information. Or if you discover it for yourself, so much the better. So that center then is again subservient to another center. And here in this article, this student came across this thing here. It says, it is useless to speculate on which of the many stars in heaven the real sun is, because it's none of them. But a physical center of attraction for this system may only be a grade higher than ours, and a servant of a center is still farther removed. So they are telling us in so many ways that this center is obedient to another center and that center. So where are we going with this? Where is the galaxy picture? The galaxy. Milky Way? Okay. All the way to the center of the Milky Way. It takes the sun 250 million years to make a circular orbit around this energy center. So, Orion is where we are. Here's Orion. Arm Orion is where our solar system is. Okay? But each one is then obedient to a higher center, and this is student thing that goes all the way this, but then where does this center go to?
Okay.
So we cannot just correlate it that way, is what this student is trying to caution everyone. That knot is one of numberless other knots.
Numberless?
Numberless. It's in here, secret doctrine. So we're talking about billions of star systems and this galaxy is one of how many other? There's like 7 that we know of that is close enough to this center that we can identify. But space in itself is what? Limitless. Only human mind limits it because it can't understand it. So we're talking about limitless. A spiritual center of energy, which is designated this, it is everywhere and it is nowhere. It's like double talk, but it's the only way it can express it, that it is not in a specific spot, because its energy is everywhere. And it is not just supportive of this system, there are billions and billions of other stars that is under its jurisdiction. Imagine what kind of power or force that is. This student has difficulty understanding this system, which is this little dot on the Orion arm in the Milky Way. Imagine how many more systems there are in the Milky Way, and this is only one galaxy. What about all the other billions of galaxies?
Okay.
Sorry.
So, if we look at this in terms of what you indicated earlier, that you have 7 levels of existence multiplied by 7, which essentially would mean you have at least 49 levels of existence.
Consciousness.
Existence of consciousness.
Consciousness. Mm-hmm.
Existence of consciousness. Consciousness exists on 7 times 7 levels. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, bringing that down to the Christ principle that you mentioned, and analyzing it in relation to the question or this notion of the knot of Fohat. And in relation to that, this central spiritual sun. Are we talking that the central spiritual sun is that Christ principle?
It is.
On 7 different levels? On 7 levels times 7 levels? Or
well,
what?
When you discuss a spiritual center of energy, we don't discuss levels of consciousness, because I don't think it exists anywhere else except Earth.
What?
Because
Consciousness?
this kind of consciousness, because the consciousness we're talking about is Mahat, which is dispersed on its own level of existence, and you have to connect to it. So yes, this center here is a ray from central spiritual sun, because the Father in you is the only link can lead you to the center. But you have to acknowledge its existence, that it is there, and that you're going to serve it. In other words, the physical life and the outer form is necessary as a temple of this spiritual energy. And that's how you have to look at it. That I am not a physical entity, I'm a spiritual entity. But in earth life, I occupy a physical body because I can't exist any other way. So what you want to do is, or what we want to do is, to connect to this source we come from. And in order to do that, we are working on these principles: Atma, Buddhi, Manas. The spirit, the spiritual discernment, mind. When Buddhi shines its light on mind and joins together, it yokes together, your consciousness is not of earth anymore, because Buddhi is the casket of the spirit. It becomes the spiritual. Your focus then becomes the spiritual, right? This is what meditation is about, to yoke the Buddhi to Manas. Only then can you have continuity of consciousness from life to life, but not only that, you remember all of the lives you have lived before because the brain is not able to. The brain only exists for one period, only one earth life. You get a new body, a new brain in each life. And this is the objection to the philosophy of karma and reincarnation, because people say, but I don't remember my existence before. Well, that's only natural because you didn't have the same brain. The brain, but who does? Who's the knower in you?
But
the
you're saying
Father in you does.
But you're saying you can make that connection through meditation.
Yeah.
Connection into the other lives that you've
Yes, you can.
had outside of this body.
That is called an exalted state of the spirituality, and once the yoking occurs, that's when it becomes permanent. In the otherwise, it's not permanent. It comes and goes, depending what you can reach towards. Yes, it is the Christ principle in each human heart, and that is the only link we have to the root. But we have to cultivate it, because we have suppressed it. It is not able to express itself because its consciousness is not of earth. It's at a higher level, at a spiritual level. So we have to reach up. I say up because I don't know how else to express.
Yeah.
It's not some dot in the sky, but a higher level of consciousness. Yes.
But until we reach that highest state, at least twice in a lifetime, do we not go through that?
What do you mean?
Coming into life and going out of life?
Yes, there's a bird's eye view of what you're going to do when you're coming in, and a bird's eye view of what you have done and what the consequences will be as you leave. Yes.
In the Christian Bible, it says, God says, let there be light. And then in those days that are numbered, and then I think it's on the third day, he created the sun, stuff like that. So where's that light? What's the difference between let there be light and then later on this other sun comes about, which provides light? So, I thought this...
Can you not correlate that to the cosmic as well as to the particular sun that we have in our system?
So you're saying that the let there be light, that's cosmic light.
Cosmic light.
That's not necessarily the sun.
It can be, or it can be the solar light. The student does not know what that refers to. It was written by a human hand. And I'm not an initiate, so how would I know?
Let's assume it refers to cosmic light.
Okay.
Okay.
Cosmic light is this expression that we just read from the Secret Doctrine.
But wouldn't the sun be also cosmic?
Sorry?
I'm just trying to...
It says
Fine.
that it is the highest level that exists here on Earth.
Mhm.
But if you go to that page 289, she explains it. Because the Dian-Chohanic hosts that are the cosmocrators or builders of universes, including ours, belong to the fifth Raji, fifth division. So they're 4 levels higher than the substance of the sun. So there is that progression, and I was trying to read it here, something to you, which I never finished it. It says here, we must work in our several degrees, and it is not in our power to overleap one step in the chain that leads to the highest. So the highest is the sun here. You have to reach it through your own heart, but that gives you what? Power to reach higher.
Okay. As another thought, you know how they say, like a sword, a sword cuts both ways. It can hurt you, but heal you. Now the sun can heal you, but yet people take too much sun. It can hurt them. To stay out the sun, they put this stuff on to protect themselves from the sun. So, is there a dual side to the sun? They say there's a light and dark.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying, in a sense, is there a dark side to the sun? In other words, there's always the light and the dark, the duality. Like the light, if the light is considered knowledge, or the sun is considered knowledge, too much knowledge can hurt you if you're unprepared for it. So, in that sense, it's light and dark to those who are not properly fit for it. In other words, the duality, I guess I'm speaking of.
Look at it that way, but you really have to look at it in its spiritual aspect and its physical aspect. Because the physical aspect gives life to the physical universe underneath its light. But what's behind it, the spiritual, gives what? Life to the spiritual realms and the psychic realms. And that's what we have to hold in the mind. It's not the physical sun that does that, but it's what's behind it. Because we are told its correlations are controlled at an archaic level. So you can look at it metaphysically with your explanation, but physically, this is the explanation. One half is physical, the other half, which is invisible, is its metaphysical, spiritual aspect. But where do we see this explanation? Where is it explained to us this way? As far as the scientific world is considered, it provides heat, and it's going to run out of energy, it's going to burn, right? It is not incandescent. The sun is not incandescent. Yep, it will not do any such thing. She explains the conflagration in the secret doctrine, but it is not that process. It is the heavens and the constellations that will move and allow other visible things behind them to come forward, and that's what burns and liquefies the earth and absorbs its water and so forth. It is in there. Please read the secret doctrine. I don't remember.
As a follow-up, for instance, just like today is Sunday,
Yes.
and the ancients, they in their worship of the sun, chose this particular day of the 7, whatever. But also interesting enough how the kings, the crown of the king, it's like how the rays come out from the sun, and then the crown that the king wears, they're little rays, they're little indentures from the surface of the crown, like sun rays, and how people sometimes connect the divine right of kings, meaning the sun is divine, God, and then the king becomes the divine on the throne, and that comes always down to like the Pope supposed to be the divine, whatever term they use, interpreter or God's representative on earth. Kingly dynasties. At first you had initiates or divine kings sitting on thrones from a heaven below.
This student does not want to come across as disrespectful towards any religion, because a lot of people follow religion. But there is an article where it is a state that masquerading that is taking on between the Catholic religion is tremendous. That they pretend to, but that they really do not. That the real custodians and the real kings, the real supporters of humanity are never ever missing from the earth. And if you attune yourself to them, you would know who they were. But the Pope is not the real one, unfortunately. We'll just leave it there, not to be disrespectful. But
But we are all that representative. We are all that light and potential.
we are.
And we're at various levels of our development.
Absolutely. So it's this philosophy that came from the wisdom of the knowers is for those who are ready to study it and stay with it. It requires tremendous study power, the staying power, and steadfastness, because you're also going to stand up and defend it to those who persistently tell you you're in the wrong, including your own family. It requires the spiritual eye, the inner eye, to be open. What is that? The pineal gland. I feel like I'm repeating myself like a little battery charge, whatever. Pineal gland.
Ever ready battery.
Yes. Okay, there are spiritual centers in the human organism that correspond to the knots. These are what? ganglions in the human body. Now, if you study biology, you would know that, okay? Even if they're not given those names that are externally given these prominent positions, nevertheless they exist. It becomes each human being's responsibility to activate these centers, because what did she say? They're petrified. This is a very, I had to look this word up, petrified. It's like frozen. It's not dead, but it's like a stone. It's frozen, and we have to give it impulse. And this article says the impulse comes from this kind of study, trying to understand it, trying to sort it out in your mind, because this philosophy does not convert. Each human heart has to convert it from inside out. We are not to strip any belief system from anybody. They have to come to it with their own initiative, because this is heart light. If it's not active, and if it's not trying to grapple with it, it cannot be put from outside in, because that system is not opened up to that particular individuality yet. It is self-effort that brings reward in this department, that you stay with it, even if you don't understand something, you sit on it. This student sits on some certain aspect for many, many years, and then one day I wake up, oh, that's what it means. Where do you think that comes from? In my sleep, I sort problems out. When I'm in those higher realms, I don't remember being there, but obviously I must bring something back. Unknowingly know it. So the purpose is to go to these spheres knowingly, participate in those realms knowingly, because who are these realms? The Diva world. We're part of them. We come from them. We come from higher intelligences. Our ancestors are not monkeys. We don't come from monkeys. We come from divine entities. And so we participate in that process at night, but we need to remember the process and bring it down with us to solve problems here. Yes, you have another question?
Well,
last one.
I just want to clarify and see if this is where we are in terms of what you're talking about. The sun you're talking about is our sun, which controls our solar system.
Correct.
All right. And there are other suns, and there are many solar systems.
Other systems, not
Our
solar
Milky
systems,
Way.
other systems.
Our Milky Way is made up of many suns, billions
Yeah.
of suns, and those suns have corresponding planets.
Don't know.
Well,
They might have it. They might not.
Okay.
Be, they might not have it. There are stars.
Let's assume for the sake of this discussion that our solar system is reflective of the great cosmic
No.
entity.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, fine. No problem. No problem.
Let me
to do
please
that.
make this a statement. The secret doctrine says in many other places, do not apply the philosophy of this book to anything else but Earth. That these conditions do not exist on the other planets of the system.
Oh, I understand that, but
Okay.
what I'm applying is the knowledge. The knowledge that from a homogeneous piece, substance, is there was a differentiation
Yeah.
that reflects that same homogeneous substance.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That
so
is
all the way
universal.
down-
That is universal.
Okay, fine. So for the sake of the discussion, all the way down, I think it's safe to say, for the sake of discussion, that is, that it's reasonable to presume that there's nothing different about our solar system and other solar systems fundamentally. Now, there may be a lot of distinguishing qualities and so forth through differentiations, but we've already established that we have 7 levels of existence. Those 7 levels of existence reflect each other, okay? And so, for the sake of the clarity point of the discussion, is that the energies exist on different levels, and our sun is connected maybe to another level where that central,
She does say.
where that central spiritual sun is in existence on its own level. Okay, so
Says that some of the systems partially correspond, and that science cannot prove that there isn't any correspondence between those and us. Partial correspondence.
fine. So I'm saying that for the point of clarification to say, or to try to put in perspective, that is, that when you say man know thyself, the rest of that statement is man know thyself and thou shalt know the universe and its gods.
By knowing yourself is the only way you can know the progenitors, the universe, and what it contains. It's a spiritual
I was just making the complete statement.
Yes.
To say that you mentioned earlier in your towards the end of your discussion, you mentioned the similarities between the universe and man,
Yes.
and that the universe has centers of energy that correspond in the human body.
It does.
Some religions call that the tree of life. Some ancient religions would call that the tree of life and have diagrams and say that diagram of the chakras or whatever centers of energy formed in our body, right, corresponds to a map of the universe.
Okay. Thank you.
If that's the case, then it's all the same. I mean, when I say it's all the same, meaning that it's still part of that homogeneous, even though it's in a differentiated form, it's still part of that homogeneity.
The homogeneity is the underlying substance principle that holds it all together.
Okay.
One emanates out of itself, the next, but it's still there. It holds it together. So the root and the rootless root are connected. And as long as the heart expression of the human being has affinity to its root, it will find it. But the danger is that the personality is too preoccupied with itself, and it forgets the Father in heaven, which is not up there in the sky, but in each human heart. And when that connection is not there, that's when we run into difficulty. That we stand to lose a whole lot more than we know by not holding on to that heart light. Now, thank you.
Okay, we'll have a short break now for refreshments, and about 15 or 20 minutes start our series on the living the life. Thank you.